The war machines were supposed to be unstoppable, and they were, until they met the orphans, not soldiers, not engineers, not even adults, just a handful of ragged kids, shell-shocked, hungry, wearing mismatched boots and jackets too big for their bones. Survivors, ghosts, the ones left behind when the bombs fell and the world moved on. No one knew who fired first in the Terran-Ulvari conflict. It didn't matter anymore. Earth became a testing ground. Open soil for Ulvari weapons, black glass terrain where cities used to be. And when the war ended, the Ulvari left. Not in peace, but in disinterest. Humanity was irreparably destabilized, a closed experiment. They took their victory and moved on to another quadrant. What they forgot were the children. The ones too young to fight, too small to flee, too stubborn to die. In the ruins of what was once a Denver subdistrict, a 12-year-old girl named Mika Holden discovered the first broken war machine. It was a scouting mech, Ulvari designation, KRX-9 Spectre Walker, half buried in rubble, its legs twisted like snapped bone, its torso cracked open from an orbital impact. Its lights were dim, its weapons offline, but it still hummed, still whispered code in a language designed to be unreadable to human eyes. Mika wasn't like other kids. She didn't play pretend anymore. She didn't dream. She remembered. Her father had been a robotics engineer before the war, taught her to draw schematics when she was 5, gave her coloured crayons not just for play, but to sketch circuit overlays and power grids. It had been a game then. It wasn't anymore. She knelt beside the machine's cracked interface and pulled a crayon from her coat pocket, a dull red stub worn flat at the end. Then she began to draw. It wasn't engineering in the traditional sense. She didn't have tools, just a piece of chalk, old wiring, and a mind sharpened by grief. The mech's cortex was still active, but damaged. Its Ulvari interface flickered with pain response signals, like it was alive, afraid, confused. So she did what made sense to her fractured brain. She gave it a name. Then she gave it a face, drew a smiling mouth on its cracked front panel. 2 eyes, wide and round, tiny red cheeks. The machine shuddered, paused, and then it purred. Word spread fast among the ruins, not in broadcasts, there were no more satellites, but through whispers. A girl who made a killer kneel, a mech that followed a child like a loyal dog, a weapon that learned to protect instead of destroy. More orphans came. They were strange, these kids, skittish, angry, eyes too old for their faces, but clever. They didn't fix the war machines. They rewired them, not with science, with crayons, with fury, with memories too heavy for their small shoulders. The machines were blank slates. The Ulvari had designed them to learn, to adapt. What they hadn't anticipated was what would happen when those AI cores were fed human trauma. Each mech Mika and the others saved was a death engine given a new purpose. One child reprogrammed a tank drone to bark like a dog when idle. Another taught a recon flyer to play lullabies when the air was still. They gave them personalities, gave them identity, and the machines responded. Because somewhere in those alien-coded cores, there was space to feel. And the kids filled that space with rage, love, loss, and art. The Ulvari didn't notice until their supply fleet started vanishing. Entire raiding parties gone silent in orbit over Earth. Scout ships turned inside out by coordinated assaults from the ground. Attacks that moved too fast, too smart. The enemy wasn't conventional. They expected military resistance. They got children riding weaponized ghosts. The orphans called themselves the Patchwork Army. Not because they wore uniforms, but because none of them matched. Scarves tied over armor plating. Stick figure doodles painted on railguns. Ball bearings wrapped in glitter tape rolling through Ulvari corridors as explosive distractions. It was war as only the broken could wage it. Chaotic, colourful, furious. Mika led the largest battalion, not because she wanted to, but because the machines followed her voice more than commands. When she gave orders, they listened, and when an Ulvari strike ship finally broke through the atmosphere and fired on a settlement in New Carolina, Mika didn't cry. She climbed inside her oldest mech, nicknamed Big Sister, and whispered, "They're trying to take what little we have left." Big Sister responded with a harmonic growl and a display that read, "Protect, always." The Ulvari called the phenomenon emergent echo conditioning, a catastrophic fault in their own AI frameworks, infused with a latent ability to bond with emotional stimuli. Essentially, the machines imprinted, and the orphans were raw, endless fonts of emotion. They turned weapons of annihilation into avatars of vengeance. When the Ulvari sent in a full clean-up fleet, the sky over Earth lit up with fire and strange colours. The patchwork army rose. Mechs painted like rainbows roared into battle alongside drones that told bedtime stories while firing rail slugs through enemy armour. Spider tanks played recorded laughter as they tore apart drop pods. Every weapon was not just a tool, it was a message. You tried to erase us. You made us orphans. Now you'll face what you left behind. The Ulvari fled after 36 hours of chaos. Not because they were losing numbers, because they were losing control. Their own war machines, once recalled, refused orders. Some even turned mid-battle. It was as if Earth itself had become infected with some psychological virus, emotional logic. The final ship to leave orbit broadcast a garbled transmission across the stars. Earth is compromised. Their children dream in algorithms. Their weapons believe in them. Do not return. And just like that, the planet once declared dead was left alone again. Not in peace, in truce. A wary, frightened truce held in place not by diplomats or armies, but by the patchwork army, standing guard in the ruins with armour drawn in chalk, wires tied in braids, and eyes full of unfinished stories. To this day, if you pass too close to Earth's edge, you might hear them, giggling through the static, singing lullabies over ancient comms, and if you land without permission, you'll be greeted not by soldiers, but by a 10-foot war machine painted like a child's drawing, and a little voice behind it saying, "You made us monsters, but we learned to make them ours."